Here we go. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, brothers and sisters, whenever you get to this. Putting this link here. It's just to the Britannica, and it's about the Mongol Empire. And I'm not going to start with that, but eventually I'm going to have to work my way into that so that way we can connect all three of these places, what we're going to call RIC. Okay, it's Russia, Iran, and China. And friends. So the and friends we'll get to in a little bit. Because there's a lot of friends. I've contended, obviously, for years that these three would be the group that are going to eventually bring down all the stuff. So right there's that link. Here in about 2 minutes, we're going to jump to the link so we can give history and connect who these three groups are, first and foremost. Because if you're just talking about three countries and people are like, well, there's nothing that they have in common, I'm like, well, actually, there is. They have a greater common history that most people just don't know about. And today, if you give me just a little bit of your time, we're going to briefly cover it here in this Cliff Note version of history, as opposed to going to all the different websites over again and then reading the same information that you've heard before. We'll do a little fresher information, but keep in mind that these are the same groups that I've already spoke on before, most of them, if not all of them. So when we talk about Russia and Iran and China, the understanding that most of you need to have is you must know that the Francs are a huge part of a left out version in their history. So who these people really are is not fully explained if you only look at one side of history. But because history is so rich and full of events, it's hard to boggle down and say, I'm going to get everything. You have to boggle down on a single area, But I specialize in generalizing. So with no further ado, we're going to get to this little thing. And just read with me for a moment, right? And this is the Mongol Empire, historical empire, Asia, right? And it may take a little while. I may skip around the place. But what I need you to please keep in mind is that as you read this, there are little blue links that you can hit that it'll pull up, it'll tell you what the information is, like things that it may think that you don't know what it is. So if you want to know who someone is, right, then you can click on the little blue link. I'll give you an example. So Genghis Khan is the first little blue one. And I clicked on it, but it's going to change the page. So, I don't want to do that too much, right? But I'll just pull that up just to see who he was, right? Just to say he was born in 1162, right? And died in August 1227, so-called. But, obviously you can go and what's the word I'm looking for? You can go and do all that stuff, on your own time. Right now, we're just going to read a couple of these things that bring together who these guys are. And that's really just the first part that should come up when you click on the link. The part that I have is going to be the Ilkhans in Iran. That's where in Iran, Iran, but that's what people call it. So I want to not make everybody confused, but you know how I talk. So the Ilkhans in Iran, the Ulus of Hulaju were at the beginning of a peculiar political situation as a consequence of religious tendencies, of the Mongol rulers in Iran. Now, I wanted to point this out, that everything always goes back to religion. I don't want to read all that other stuff. That's because that's the beginning of the article, where I was just at. I was reading earlier. But this is the stuff that I wanted to read. I wanted to listen to this. The negative attitude of Hulaju toward Islam and his attack against the caliphate led to a breach with the Golden Horde in southern Russia, where Berk, Batu's brother, had adopted Islam. The Ilkhan's regional khans in Iran, on the other hand, remained at first loyal allies of the great Khan Kublai in China, whereas Berk supported the pretender Araboji, who rose against Kublai. Hulaju remained hostile toward Egypt, the chief Islamic power in the northeast, so that the alliance between Berk and the Mamluks in Egypt concluded in 1261, followed almost naturally. For the first time in history, a Mongol ruler allied himself with a foreign power against another Mongol. Even European powers became partners of this political constellation. Stop right there. I needed to read to y'all how they divvied up the stuff when it was all going down, and so what was really taking place. Okay. All this stuff is about religion, right? Now, if you guys are wondering why I picked up Russia, Iran, and China, it's really for one reason. They originally were moon worshipers. When they became converts, the group of them that were the royal aristocrats, I'm trying to break it down. This is deep. These are not the Khans. Those are the actual Khazars, but these Khazars have mixed with the Khans. Okay? Now, the Khans' true origins, they say, is Mongolia and stuff like that, but there's a contentious argument that they weren't pure 100% two-legged humanoids at first when they first burst onto the scene, much like they say about the Huns. But we're not going to get all the way carried away into that. What we're going to talk about is what they believed and what they worshiped the moon for a long time. This is why right now, even to this day, you have people who let me sit here for a second. You have the Islam sign, right? Behind me, devil. You have the Islam sign that has the moon on it, right? And on their sign and on their signal, you see, they have the stars as well. Now, the only way that this is possible, because they're actually not the same people as Abraham. Now, the only way this is possible is that when they first came in contact with regular life, the first thing that they seen was the moon and the stars. So this is why they worship those things. Be with me, God. That's why I just ask God to be with me, because I'm trying to give y'all the message right now. This is deep. This whole thing is about faith, right? So when they're fighting over the religions, I'm going to read a little bit more to y'all, but I want y'all to actually read some of the stuff yourself and get your own understanding, right? Because what happens is like, what's the word I'm looking for? Musical chairs. And we're going to read just a little bit of it. We're going to go right back into it, right? Let me turn on that brightness just a little bit off my eyes. Let's get, okay, the Christian states of Tripoli, Acre, founded by the Crusaders, enjoy the protection of the Pope and the kings of France. It is therefore not surprising that in Rome and Paris, the Ilkhans were regarded as potential allies against Islamic Egypt. See, did you hear how they said that? The people that are in Iran right now, are not really truly Muslims. They're something else. They're moonlighting. It's ironic to say that, right? That they do all that stuff, but they really actually worship something else. This is no different than the Khazars who worship Tengri, who believe they come from the so-called fallen one, right? Who they say lives in the sky. So I just asked God to be with me. Okay, I said, God, don't take me today. God, let me tell my people what it is that needs to be told to them. Did y'all hear that? It is not therefore surprising that in Rome and Paris, the Ilkhans were regarded as potential allies against Islamic Egypt. These are the same cats right now who people swear on God, worship this fallen one, whose name starts with A and ends with an H. They call it Allah. But I could read to you right now in the book. I'll read such things at a later date, not right now, where the name Elah or Allah is found in the Bible. But it has nothing to do with the God. It has to do with the order of angels. Just to throw that out there. As we hear this, Russia, Iran, and China. So China and Russia have tried to suppress the Muslims in their country forever, because they too are moon worshipers. The Russians, I believe they have a moon or something like it to it in their symbol. The Chinese as well. It's not a surprise, folks. I want y'all to hear me. I want y'all to hear me. I want y'all to hear me loud and clear. It's not a surprise. We're 10 minutes in and I done gave you some game that ain't nobody ever told you ever in your life. 12 minutes, excuse me. I don't want to tell any lies. See what I'm saying? So this is my point. So now here we are, right? We're going to read a little bit more. Heluju's son, Abaga, succeeded his father in 1265. Abaga's wife was a Byzantine, a daughter of Emperor Michael VIII. Oh my goodness. Palaligus, something like that. His name is crazy. And he tried to establish closer and political and military ties with the Holy See, England and France, through the Nestorian patriarchs, whom he favored greatly. The Nestorian, when it says that, right, it's a word for people who pretty much believe in like doctrine, right? And that's what they believe in. You see what I'm saying? And different doctrines. So these are the guys so you have some cats who were pushing the old school faith, other cats who were talking about that Pauline stuff, right? I'll be right back. Give me one moment. Okay. Just had to get my mind right. So the Nestorians, right? These are cats who are for a want of a better term, for want of a better word, right? They're what's the word I'm looking for? They're like delivering a whole bunch of different doctrines, right? Whole bunch of different stuff. So they're all lying pretty much. The Chinese, Russia, Iran, and China right? Is about the truth, okay? And the truth is that they have been working together to come against us all. You feel what I'm saying? Okay, check me out, y'all. I'm trying to tell y'all the truth the right way. So there's Muslims in all those countries. China, Russia, Iran, today to this world that we all know of. Two of those countries have a problem with them. One of the countries is trying to fight against right now the same people that they seed from, who are the Khazars. So right now we're trying to figure out. I'm trying to say who's who. Word. We have all three of these countries. Who's who, right? Who's still the Khans? The Chinese, more than likely, still have more of the Khan blood than any of them, right? The Russians, right? They're like that too, right? See what I'm saying? But they're white skinned now. But they look like white skinned Asians, okay? The Iranians are the closest to a part Negroid thing, even though there's clearly you can find Negro and Negroids everywhere, right? They're found more in a place like Iran, because that's where we're from. So we're going to be there. Now, I want y'all to hear this. We're going to read about all three of these. Now, listen. Let's look. We're going to hear all three of the places I just said in the first beginning stanza. The Eulis of Haluju were from the beginning in a peculiar political situation as a consequence of the religious tendencies of the Mongol rulers in Iran. The negative attitude of Haluju toward Islam, okay, Iran, that's number one. The negative attitude of Haluju toward Islam and his attack against the caliphate led to the breach with the Golden Horde in southern Russia, where Batu's brother had adopted Islam. The ill Khans or regional Khans in Iran, on the other hand, remained at first loyals of the great Khan, Kublai, in China. Y'all, before we can even start reading, all three of the countries I'm talking about are all mentioned. Can you feel me? They're all right there. So I'm not making it up, right? I'm not dreaming. Russia, Iran, China, Rick. That's established. Now let's talk about and friends. Now, we're going to get more modern day. Okay? Now that we've established that none of them really actually believe in any of those religions. Word, and that those aren't their original faiths. Right? That's not their original faith. So we can all safely say that that's not who they are. They're not actually Muslims, Christians, or Jews. None of that. Christians being the people who stole the faith. The Nestrians. So you got them out the way. That's Rick. I'm glad y'all got to meet Rick and understand that we're gonna break into this again. This ain't the only video of Rick. But we need to first understand who Rick is and what Rick stands for. Right? Now we got those three nations. Now let's talk about and friends. The Khans were global. They were worldwide. They didn't just exist in one part of the earth. Okay? And so when they were here in America, obviously, what you call America, North and South, they still have people who are still alive to this day. Some people like to believe that some of the starters are the cartel who are not Spaniards, who are true Aztecans or Axicans. That's right. Now, how they got over here, only God knows. I have my own ideas about that, but we won't get carried away. But these same cons are monitored in history being everywhere. Think about that. Everywhere. So we got to be smart and we got to be circumspect. The friends that they have are their own people or are them, but not as diluted. So Native Americans and Asians only look alike because they blood mixed thousands of years ago. But they're not the same exactly people. But they have a similar genome. Right on? It's like I'm trying to explain something that I know everybody already understands. You know what I mean? How do I say this? Most of the and friends, because America's not a friend, whatever you think that is. Those being those Nestrians, right? Those Masons who came over on boats, right? Who believe in whatever they believe in and use the so-called word of God to colonize this land. You have to understand what I'm saying. There's a reason why there were wars to fight off all these different groups. And the Russians, like the Portuguese, like the French, like everybody else, they were here in America long before the English were. Right. So, and when it talks about France and Paris and all those guys being Christian places, we're talking about that's the Pope. Or, but this is after forced conversion. Right, by the threat of death. Brothers and sisters, did y'all hear me? They're forgetting to tell people that. Like the people who believed before this, right? In the word and the scripture, where were black people at in 12 whatever? That's right. Still in Africa. Doing what? Building up that nation. Making it famous. Right. Think about it. This is all part of that people getting killed and all the blood being shed and why they had to go to all these places. You guys understand what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell us that the cons weren't really Muslims or weren't really this or weren't really this. Okay, so what were they then? It had to be something. They believed in something because the problem was what? Religious. Come on. I'm trying to break it down. Rick's issue was religion, is religion till this day. They're all moon worshipers. Every last one of them. That's why they're fighting like this. You know how they say like the moon makes people go crazy or whatever? I believe that there's something in the moon or with the moon that affects how they behave. I can't prove it, but they're fanatics about it. It's crazy. They all have that moon in the background, every last one of them. Why is that? Think about that. These are the kind of things that didn't believe in nothing, that didn't know what anything was, that someone showed them what it was, and they began to worship it. Y'all want me to read something to you? Let me read something to you. Who? I'm going to the final books of the Kings. I'm pretty sure. Nah, we'll go back a little bit further than that. We're going to go to chapter 23, verse 1. So they reported the word to the king, and the king sent and gathered all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem to himself. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and every man of Judah, and all who dwelt in Jerusalem with him, and the priests, and the prophets, and all the people, small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that was found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by a pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord, to keep his commandments and his testimonies and all his ordinances with all his heart and with all his soul, to confirm the words of this covenant, even the things written in this book. And the people stood to the covenant. And the king commanded Chelcias the high priest, and the priest of the second order, and them that kept the door, to bring out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and for the grove, and all the host of heaven. And he burned them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kedron, and took of the ashes to Bethel. And he burned the idolatrous priest, whom the kings of Judah had appointed. And they burned incense in the high places, and in the cities of Judah, and the places round about Jerusalem, and them that burn incense to Baal, and to the sun, and to the moon, and to Mazzaroth, and to all the host of heaven. And to Mazzaroth is like the 12 signs. Listen, that's the Israelites. That's way before these cats. Okay? So Rick and friends, their issue is not with the scripture. It's beyond that. They don't believe in nothing. Right. But what they want to worship is what they want to worship. Come on. Can you hear me? We're going to read a little more. Maybe we'll get the point home. When I talk about these dudes playing musical chairs and what they believe in. Let's just jump on down. Amen. Bang. Oh, here we go. Abaga died in 1282. And under Argum, 1284 to 91, who was himself inclined toward Buddhism. The tolerant policy towards the Christians was continued. He too favored the Nestorians and sent the Nestorian ecclesiastic Rabban Bar Sama as his ambassador to Europe in order to establish closer contact with the Christian powers. Bar Sama was first sent to Byzantium and then to Paris, where he was received by Philip the Fair. In Bordeaux, he met King Edward I of England, and in Rome was audience to Pope Nicholas IV. No tangible results followed, however. Argun's subsequent letters to Philip of France and to Pope Nicholas IV are documents of great linguistic and historic interest. In domestic affairs, Argun relied greatly on the services of Jewish physician Saad al-Dawla. Listen. Do y'all hear this? This guy's a Buddhist, wants to be a Buddhist, right? Has the Jewish dude, or the guy who's practicing being a Jew, going in, doing stuff with the so-called Christians. Man, this stuff is wild. We're going to keep reading. Resistance to Saud soon materialized and provoked anti-Jewish riots. The financial situation of the empire became more precarious when Argun's successor, Gaikatu, 1291 to 95, introduced paper currency on the Chinese model. This paper money proved a failure and resulted in complete economic confusion. Okay, listen. People wanted gold. Okay? You can't, people wanted the silver. People was used to doing that, and the government was trying to get you to give. They wanted you to. It was some bull. Word? It was some bull. That was the issue. Can you dig it? And they was like, nah. But understand, the same cats who were called Jewish now messing up people's money way back then. Does it sound familiar? Okay. The reign of Mahmud Ghazan, 1295 to 1304, brought changes in several fields. He introduced fiscal and monetary reforms and reorganized the administration of the whole empire. His conversion to Islam marks a definite break in Mongol and Iranian history. Buddhism was persecuted as idolatry, and even the Jews and Christians suffered. The adoption of Islam by Mongols facilitated the assimilation of Mongols and Turks in North Iran by eliminating their religious differences. Did you hear that? The adoption of Islam by the Mongols facilitated the assimilation of Mongols and Turks in North Iran by eliminating their religious differences. So they did what? They said that we'll be Muslims in name so that way we can get along. But really, we know what we actually believe. Man, I'm trying to break it down to you. Ghazan also declared himself formally independent of the court in Beijing, and any reference to the great Khans in coin inscription or official documents was dropped. He no longer called himself Il Khan, but Khan, in order to underline his sovereignty. This emergence of Iran as an independent state was perhaps promoted by the death of Kublai Khan, 1294, whose relations with his nephews and great-nephews in Iran had always been friendly. So are y'all hearing this right here? Like I had told people a long time ago, if anybody remember been rocking with your boy, y'all remember when I was like the Arabs and the Chinese look alike because they've been doing business for a long time? Who remember that? Who remember all that good sweet stuff? See, I've been doing this for so long that some of the things I'm saying, people are like, I don't know. No, it all makes sense, y'all. These cats are not really who they say they are. They don't even believe what they say they believe. It's not what everybody thinks it's about. Who came out on top of the Crusades? Okay then. Because who's in charge of the world right now? Like what actual, like who's actually still in charge? Like who can still be like, we'll put a nuclear option. That's what they'll do. We all know it. Come on. So then what? Right. This is why you can't be afraid to say the truth. These cats were never Muslims and they were never Christians. It just told us they did this for the sake of getting along so that way they could click up. Right. We'll all say we worship this, then that way there's no reason to fight. And they were what? The Turks and the Mongols. Come on. Who were the Turks? But cats who used to worship Tingri. Are y'all hearing me? But cats who used to what? Think they came from the sky god. Who were they fighting against? The Franks, who also said they came from the sky god. Listen, man. And friends, the cartel. Here we go, baby. And the Taliban. Here we go, baby. This is it. Now I get to really wrap them up into this. Because if you look up the cons in all those places, the cons have been to where the Taliban are at. And then, like I said, if you look at here in the Americas, there was a group that was very similar to the cons that was all through this motherfucker. Vicious, savage. Right. The same kind of cats that they gave land to because they called them civilized because they were willing to enslave other groups. Right. Almost as if they had done it, almost as if it was all coordinated and it wasn't on accident, the more you look at it. Anyway. And friends, the cartel and the Taliban. Because they're the biggest two and friends. You could talk about North Korea, but they're isolated. They can't really do nothing. You know what I mean? What they can do is on the Asian side of everything, and pretty much everybody uses them to get the dirty work done. You know, there's some high level stuff they get to mess with, but they're pretty much like high level grunts. You know, you feel me? You know not to cross them because, you know, they're a little temperamental. You don't want to, you know, you feel me? Anybody who will kill their own parents, you feel me? You know, without batting an eyelash, you feel me? Just because they're a defector, a so-called defector, you better watch out. They're not playing. So, but the real and friends, like I said, the Afghanis and the damn cartel, because people forget how a lot of this stuff is started. A lot of folks don't know that the cartels, normally a lot of them worship African gods. There's a movie, it's called, what's it called? Border Town or something like that. Something to border. Anyway, it's a crazy movie. It's early mid 2000s. It's been out for a little while, but it was showing how a cartel down there was getting down, how they really work, and this is a real, actual demonic cult worship word, not just in there down there in Mexico. This shit is over there in Africa where they got it from. So, Palomayombe is the name of the creature that they were worshiping. That's their god. And it requires blood, it requires death, right? And all the gods that they really worship, that all these things really worship, are really that's what they worship, are entities that only respect death and carnage. You see what I'm saying? So, and they worship what? The moon, like I said, they're moon gazers. Word. I forget the movie where the dude said blood, he's like blood has a special look in the moonlight and a full moon. He's like, have you ever seen blood in the full moon? Is it Manhunt? Is it that one? It's the movie that's the precursor to the whole Hannibal Lecter joints. Or the old school movie back in the 80s with Is it William Peterson? Is that dude's name? I think that's his name. Anyway, you know, they're into something like it's something dark like that, y'all. It's something esoteric. I know people don't want to hear this, but they need to hear it. They need to understand that what I've been saying to y'all is not a lie. Word. The cartels worship death. The Taliban and those dudes worship death. Allah is an angel of straight up demonic means. Word. It asks for death and carnage. That's what it demands. People are like, that's what the Most High God was asking for. No, 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 no. If you read the story, that's not how it doesn't just happen like that. It's totally different. These are cats who can't even tell you where they came from. They just started killing folks and stayed killing folks. Right on? Because they worship something that's in the middle of the planet. But people don't want to hear that though. Because in the middle of the planet, there is no real sun or there is no real moon. You can't see none of that. So the first thing that you see when you come up out of the joint or when you come up out of the crevice in the mountains, when you first actually see something, right? Whatever that luminary is, the host of heaven. That's why I read that to y'all so y'all can hear that. The Israelites, your people were worshiping the sun and the moon. They've been doing this. It's not nothing brand new. So they could have easily have learned this could have easily have learned all the wickedness from who? That's right. I know it's hard to believe, huh? That's what I'm trying to point out to y'all. Is that the things that they're doing, they learned from someone. They didn't know anything. So who did they learn all this fucked up stuff from? Right. Rick is only responsible for who they are now. But who they were before, we need, once again, you got to give gravitas to this. They're coming. Do y'all believe me or not? How many Chinese you think live in the U.S. right now? How many Russians you think live here? How many people you think with fake visas who are actually Iranian, moonlighting as another character, like they love to do, is actually here? Enough for a small militia, enough for a small army, enough for small cells wherever they're at. How many Asians, Iranians, or excuse me, Middle Eastern people in general, we'll say, and Eastern Bloc cats, how many of them really be broke out here? There's broke ass Asians, there's broke ass Ruskies, there's broke ass, Arabs, but not that many, not like that. Right. So their ability to get it popping off is stupendous. And when you throw in the the Afghanis are not really Arabs. I need y'all to understand that. They're Arabs to the degree that there's true Arabs that live in Afghanistan, but the Pashtun is not an Arab culture. Word? That's something totally different. That's his own thing. Once again, moon worshippers. Word? They're friends though. They're the and friends. This is why they all work together to get the dope, the drugs, all that. This is why they all this. That's why they all coordinate like that. This is why they make these movies. They've been making all these movies with the terrorists working with the cartel, so-called terrorists. Man, whatever they are, or extremists. I'll go that far to call them that. You know, it's not terrorism when America drops bombs on villages unexpectedly, but it's terrorism when somebody living in their own home country is defending their turf. Whatever. So, I won't, you know what I'm saying? I don't even like to talk about that type of stuff because that's a whole other subject. But their friends are legit the same people for the most part. So those who were in the cartel who were actually Spaniards, to a larger degree, have a certain type of Frankish blood in their body. So when I say Franks, I'm talking about, obviously, the guys who are of that larger so-called Germanic tribe. Some of the Spaniards even have a little bit of what you guys are hearing about. Some of the Khan and some of the Turk blood and some of the Mongolian blood. Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon. But you know what I'm saying? You have to know stuff like that already. You have to know that the Chinese Arab or the Asian Arab connect is tough and is heavy. And the only country that really kind of survived the onslaught is India. But the black ones who fought to keep it like that, they're now an undercast. But it wasn't always like that. Anyway. The Afghanistan warriors have teamed up with the Southern Hemisphere warriors and the Eastern Bloc warriors, along with the Middle Eastern and Greater Asian warriors, are all amassing their numbers right now. Because if you think that the problem was religion back then and it's not still the problem now, then you guys are sadly mistaken. What do you think all this fighting is about in the Middle East? Right. The Russians and the Chinese have had a taste of westernized society, and they feel like they would rather control where women and men can unleash their debauchery, and they would rather control where you cannot, as opposed to this you can be whoever you want to be and you can do whatever you want to do type culture. That's not going to work. The beef is something like that right now. And it's economics. It's the money. Nothing's changed. The problems back then are the same problems now. If you're ever wondering why Iran, Russia, and China are really so cozy, it's because of this history. They have deep roots, deeper than people understand. Who are the Afghanis now but a watered down version of the Arabs and the Turks mixed? Come on. Anybody hearing me? Who are a whole bunch of those cats in the Middle East, but what I just said. Real true Arabs who are black and some sort of Turk. Come on. Every once in a while, a little Mongol blood in them or whatever. Come on. Who's not? They don't want to hear that. They're not trying to hear that. Like I said, the cartels and all that stuff, all those cats, man, those dudes, MS-13, who do you think they are but the cons? Right. They never abandoned the ways of fighting that they have. People call it brutal. That's what they were doing back in the day. That's how you had to be able to get down. You had to be able to cut somebody's whole head off and live with it. Come on. These are the same cats. These are their and friends. Who do you think is waiting to go off? Now, here's the coldest part that people don't want to hear. They actually believed in spirits back then. Come on, let's break it down. Let's read a name real quick. Let me just find a name on this page. Let me click it up. Who? Gazan or Gazan. Listen, you think Gazan didn't believe in spirits? Hey, y'all, you can check it out yourself. I forget what year in the 1300s, but the 1330s or the 1320s, something like that. The Russians have documented in history that they fought beings that came from out of the sky. Documented in their history. I can't make this up. Okay, here we go. After Gazan's premature death at the age of 31 in 1304, his brother, Ojitu, became Khan. And he originally been a Christian and was baptized Nicholas, but later became a Muslim. I told y'all musical chairs, man. They just gonna we just gonna believe whatever we want to believe and say that, oh yeah, we believe that. Come on, man. They didn't even know what. Anyway, these are things that are conjuring up spirits and doing evil, wicked, man. Anyway. This is crazy. He continued to reform the policy of gays and also kept his advisors. Among them, the statesman and historian Russia.Iran.China, a Jew. The capital of Ilkhan's had hitherto been Tabriz. And Russia.Iran.China, does that not sound like a fucking Turk? Come on, man. But Ojitu moved his residence to Sultania, near, oh my goodness, some of these names. Kazvin. Yeah, I was having a hard time pronouncing them earlier, and I wasn't about to be looking them all up. I said, I'll go on what I know. In foreign policy, the new Khan followed the pattern set by his predecessors. He decided to resume contact with European powers. His letter of 1307, addressed to Philip IV of France, offering to continue friendly relations, has survived. Listen, this cat said, look, cuz, I'm about to be a Christian. His Christian name is Nicholas. Nah, I'm about to be a Muslim. It's just wild. Y'all got to understand. This is all during the Crusades and whatnot. It's crazy. Anyway, it's wild. It's wild. Under the influence of Islam, the absorption of Mongols by Iranian civilization became more and more pronounced. Did you hear that? The absorption. You know what that means, right? People making babies and everybody starting to look the same. Mm-hmm. Give me a second while I get some of this Mac and Jack in my cup. Although Ojetu's letter to Philip was written in Mongol, he calls himself not Khan, but Sultan, and uses a Muslim date along with the traditional Mongol designation of years arranged according to the animal cycle. I told y'all this is what they believe, so they just believe in any and everything. Animal cycle. What the fuck? That's how the years are pronounced? Come on, man. Where do you think they got that from? The Chinese what? That's right. The year of the what? That's right. So that could have been the year of the rat or the year of the goat or the year of the whatever back then. Understand, man. These dudes was just doing everything any old kind of way. He wrote the letter. Listen, he wrote it in Mongol. He didn't call himself a Khan. He called himself a Sultan and used the Muslim date, but then used the years of the Chinese stuff, man. Come on, man. Why do you think these cats all work together right now? Something happened where I don't know. And I'm talking about it was back then during this time. Something happened that put the English in position to be able to come here and have control over us. Because why not? Because why not them? Why not one of these groups? So wouldn't you be bent out of shape if another group got to hold pretty much a ticking time bomb, but still time bomb that's going to bring you everything that you never had? Wouldn't you be just a little bit salty? Or maybe they knew not to do it, and maybe they're getting angry and they're fed up because they done it. I don't know. There's a couple different ways you could look at it, but we're gonna just once again we're gonna throw in prophecy with what we know as known history, and we're gonna just keep going. But listen to this. This coexistence of Mongol, Turkish, Iranian, and Chinese. Listen, The Mongols are the same ones who run shit in China right now. They want, when it talks about the Chinese, it's talking about a aboriginal people. Man, it's deep. It's so deep. Let me just go ahead and keep reading. This coexistence of Mongol, Turkish, Iranian, and Chinese elements in the Il-Khan Empire lasted for more than a half a century. But finally, Islamic and Iranian influences proved to be the strongest. What did I tell y'all? That the Iranians are not, they're not Muslims. Nevertheless, Islam remained for a long time under the influence of Chinese culture. Its miniature paintings of the 13th and 14th centuries, most notably those of the so-called Demate Shahnameh, are clearly modeled on Chinese traditions. Iran produced under Mongol rule a historian who, perhaps the first ever to try to write a real-world history. This was Russia.Iran.China's Jami al-Tarikh, the collection of chronicles, which incorporated not only the history of the Mongols, but also that of India, China, and even the Europe. The Franks. Come on. The universality could be accepted only in a country like Iran, where cultural and political ties existed simultaneously with China, European powers, and the other Mongol empires. Stop right there, y'all. You know what it's saying? It's saying that anywhere else, that would be complete, absolute bullshit, because that's not world history. That wouldn't be the world history. I'm trying to tell y'all, man. Your boy don't be lying to you. I have no reason to lie to you. This was a great way for us to break into Rick. Because Rick and Friends is going to be, I don't know, for a bunch of mini parts. Because we had to talk about, we had to cover their history. It would be improper for me to just go right into modern day just drama and give you no background. Now they can't say I didn't do that. We don't have to go all the way through every year. But I wanted to really give y'all the times back in the 1200s, so-called 1200s, right? This is when it all jumped off with them. Right. This is well after the smashing of Judea. This is well after the fall of Rome. Okay? So cats running around calling themselves Roman they were no more Roman than these cats were actual Jews. You dig what I'm saying? It's that simple. We need to really come to the conclusion that, Rick, whatever they believed, they knew enough to not enslave the people for 400 years. What y'all think about that? But the Franks didn't. So what happened? That's what I'm saying. What happened? Like, what's the difference? Why would the Franks be the only group that's willing, lest what I said is true? They were forced under the threat of supreme pressure by still very powerful black groups who were in abnormal stature and size to do what they done. I know people don't want to hear that. At this point in time, those same groups have already, once again, they've relinquished a certain level of their power, but they have so much influence everywhere still, they can shut it all down. Jordan is the country that's going to be took off the map when it's all said and done, when the Messiah comes back. He's taking that whole thing off the map. What he's going to do is going to be, I only want to think about it, vicious. Vicious. Because best believe these cats got secret armies that y'all don't even know about and never even heard about. They never could. You put this stuff in a movie, you try to make a movie, they'll lay your ass out. Or they'll make it to where you're looked at as a loony and a crazy. You're not gonna talk about certain things and not get checked. This is why I make sure I cover my bases. Bases are covered. The and friends, like I told y'all, right now at this current point, we're going to bring it just a little bit to the future, and we'll get all the way to the future in our next rig. They've got to where the opium. Think about this. Now, I'm not sure if it's just about the I don't know if there was ever a time when the dudes in Iran were hooked to the shit, but there could have very well been. There could have very well been a time when the Francs got all these dudes hooked to the dope. Cause I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't tell you like what they done. That they did something that was underhanded, and because they all got locked out. How did they all get locked out of the fatness, right? So to speak. Because that's what happened. You got to think about it like this. They could have easily have enacted the 400-year prophecy. They had the power, the initiative. I'm sure they knew about the prophecy. But why would you want to ruin a good thing? Right. So let's once again what I said be true. They were broke. The other groups that are not talked about, that are not these cons, right? That are these Francs. Think about that. Unless they had to go broke. What? You go broke, and these big black gigantic things are telling you who are like fucking 10 feet tall, 11 feet tall. They're telling you, look, you just go over there and just set up shop. We got you. If you don't do it, we'll kill you. It doesn't really matter. But somebody's going to do it. If it's not you, it'll be somebody. You see what I'm saying? Dudes I'm talking about heartless niggas. Okay? Straight grimy to the core. I don't know if y'all ever met a black person like that who's just cold with the game. You're like, damn, this nigga got no heart, man. None. There be people like that. They're just evil. Hey, look, they exist. Knowing that, I can easily accept that cats who shoot people in the back right now and say they felt threatened for their life while they shoot a man in his back. I can very well believe that something like that doesn't need to be coerced very much or threatened very hard by something that it feels like could easily end it right on when there were no guns. Right. The threat of death was weird, was hella real. Right. People don't even, they won't tell you about black Vikings and whatever. They only want you to think that they were white dudes. They won't tell you about nigga Vikings. They won't tell you about black, all that stuff. Because if they tell you about that and you start to understand that these were black dudes that were 12 feet tall, because how did they get that tall? Word? Right. How did they get that? This nigga's 9 feet tall. How did he get that tall? There's a bunch of them. Right. How did it get that big? But the greater question is that would you what would you do? Right. You could defend yourself and everything. Are you gonna are you gonna run the risk of fighting a thing that's 10 feet tall but has a wiggle, like anybody else you know, as big as it is, it's extremely limber? Are you gonna take that chance? I mean, right. So why would the cons take that chance of running up on those dudes? If you're ever wondering how they were able to keep the Middle East black for all these years. Who do you think told them not to go into Africa until they were told to go into Africa? Okay, then. I'll be thinking I'm joking and I'm lying when I say there's gigantic black bastards right now running around on this earth, laughing in a fucking cave right now, internet and everything, giggling because he thinks it's funny. But it ain't funny. Evil things. Y'all just don't know. You'd have to believe in that scripture to believe that there's still abominations like that that are on this earth. That mean no, when I say no good, they mean no good. None. And these are those things, friends. That's Rick's friend. That's one of his silent friends. The worst kind of friend you could have is someone that if they make a plan and they want to go through with it, they try to force you to go through with it with them. That's the kind of friend that is. And that's the kind of person Rick has got himself caught up with. Why do you think they're afraid to do anything right now? They tell us that nuclear energy is the strongest thing on this earth, but we don't actually know that. Has it ever even occurred to anybody that there's forces that are way stronger than that, way more destructive, and possibly, listen to this, can be controlled even greater? Have far, far greater control? But why would they tell you that? Who are me and you to who? Once again, if I'm telling you that these same things are allowing this all to happen, why would they come out and say, yeah, we got a miniature Wakanda over here, colder than Wakanda though. We got real plutonium, everything, real uranium, everything. They got it all, type thing. People don't want to hear that. They don't understand. They're digging the stuff up in these places. You don't think the ancients knew what this stuff was way back then? Right. They knew what it was. You don't think there were super weapons way back in the day? Witchcraft, sorceries, devices? I'm sure there were. As it's been said, people believe that the pyramids used to be giant generators. There's no way of knowing now. But I'll tell you this much, though. If you thought that I wasn't going to come with some real world history for you first, so that way we could, it's undeniable. It's undeniable. People might think that I just dragged it on. No, I have to stress it that these guys go way back and that they don't have any actual belief. They don't believe in nothing. If they believed in something, they'd have stuck to it, and that would have been the fight. And there would have never been, but they had to, that's what I'm looking for. They were learning culture. Because like I said, they can't really tell you where these things came from. But they were trying to figure out culture still. They were trying to figure out, like, what do we actually want to do? Who do we actually want to be? What's our identity? It, once again, they didn't want to be Hindus, but they wanted to be Buddhist. Now, for any of y'all who don't know anything, Siddhartha Gautama was Indian, okay? And he was made a god in the Chinese lore, but he's not a god for the actual Indians. Right on? If anything, he just achieved enlightenment to them. But they don't worship him as a god. But the Chinese worship Siddhartha Gautama, aka Buddha, the enlightened one, as a god. A lot of people don't know that. So I would think it's awkward that they wouldn't be Hindus, and I forget the first religion of India, but it's not exactly just like Hinduism, but there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of branches, if you will, that look the same. Anyway, I just can't think of the name of the faith, but it matters, but it doesn't matter. It does matter because I would be able to better connect it all for you, but right now I just can't. I know what I'll do. Give me a second. Google. First religion in India. There we go. Vedas. There we go. Vedas. There we go. Bang, bang, bang. Yes. They say that Hinduism is the oldest known religion in existence. Look, man, let me go ahead and tell people something real quick, y'all. When you've managed to keep your culture alive, because that was the plan, it's easy to say to people whatever you want to say to them. Does anybody remember when I read to you about the actual Khazars when they converted and went into India and they created the Punjab class? Right on. They created that. That's the Khazars' creation. So ironically, you get what I'm saying, right? That you have a group who was telling us who is who and what is what in a land that they don't even come from. Doesn't even make sense. Look at India's financial situation too, by the way. Everywhere these so-called Jews go, the money is fucked up every time. Everything be going good, and then something will happen, and then they ain't got no money no more. And like I said, because they worship death and destruction, ain't no big deal. But the faith that they believe in, though, is by and part and by and large something that is awkward, that is overlooked. Like, why would you bypass the Hindus and go right to Buddha? You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't understand that kind of thing. I read it to you. It said it, not me. It's about religion. They said it's about religion. I didn't say that. The article said that. So they want to argue with the article. Go argue with the person who put that together. But I didn't say that, though. So my point is this. If it was about religion, and not at any point do we really hear about anybody being a Hindu. Listen to what I'm saying. What color do you think and race do you think of when you think of India? Think of dark-skinned people. Now in modern day, when you think of Chinese, right? They won't tell you that Buddha Siddhartha Gautama was a dark-skinned Indian. Or, they won't tell you that part. But what color do you think they think that the Chinese who worship Buddha is now? Light-skinned Chinese, right? When you talk about Christians, you think of white-skinned looking people. When you talk about Jews, you think of white-skinned looking people. Notice that none of them are Jews. None of them want to convert to be Jews. Right, because they know that they're not them. But the Jews are messing with the money everywhere. Dog, it's so deep. The Jews are not their friends. That's why I have not called them and friends. They're not a part of the friends. They're not even a friend of me. They're like an obligated acquaintance. Like if you move into a neighborhood and your door faces another person and you come out, and every morning it seems like y'all come out at the same time, and he speaks to you or she speaks to you, out of cordiality, you feel like you should respond, not to be weird or not to be none of that. So you respond and you try to be polite and you move on and you care about your day. It's things like that. But they might do stuff like play their music loud or, have people over who have drama and shit like that, like things that you don't like. But it is what it is. And they always have an excuse and a reason why it happened, but you don't really care. And they might try to invite you over and try to be polite to you. They might even try to do good by you every once in a while. But you just know, ultimately, their ways, I don't really like how they get down. But, they pay to live there. So I can't make them leave. That's where they pay to live. Right. People respect the idea that someone pays to live somewhere, apparently. Why, I don't know. They say that people are supposed to be doing this and this, but the ability to pay to where you live does not mean that you have the ability to build or the ability to create whatever, whatever. Having said that, though, it's an unfortunate thing that a group could overlook an entire region of faith and pull only to the white skin looking face as if that was the way to go. And then, and friends, once again, the Afghanis, their head representation, white looking people, the cartels, for the most part, if you just want to use El Chapo, he's a white looking dude, right? So it's not like I'm reaching or I'm making this shit up. I don't have to reach. Uh, it's just there's a lot of information and I can't give it all to you. Even if I tried to just read information to you and overload you, that would have been stupid. I think focusing on just the fact that these three countries that Rick goes all the way back almost 1,000 years, for sure known history, can't be disputed. And we can do it can be shown that these cats never believed in what they say that they believe in now. Right. So they're all converted because it's convenient. Do y'all remember when they said that the Americans and the Russians were racing to build a rocket to go to space? And I think the Russians made it first. And a lot of times they said, well, they say that they made it first. And they said that the Russian dude said when he got up there, he said, "Where's God?" Now, two responses to that. The first response is that it's just clear all-out blasphemy, right? But the second response is that if it's not all-out blasphemy and he's wondering where is God, well, he'd have to understand that when Enoch was taken up, Enoch went to different portals just to get to the regular heaven, let alone to get to the heaven of heavens. So putting it short, the portals weren't open just because you flew to outer space, so-called outer space. Having said that, only someone who doesn't believe in anything could even build a device that is likened to the tower. Right. What would the tower be but a giant space station if you built it all the way up to heaven? But a space station that started on Earth. That's right. What people call space, right? Heaven station, if you want to call it that. See, that's the point, is that folks they're not to say that their imaginations don't work, but they don't tie together what they've already seen and heard of and then say, okay, that's what they're trying to replicate. The rockets are supposed to be their version of the Tower of Babel, the Tower of Confusion, right on? Only they got to actually build their tower so high up, but they still can't get off the planet. Can you feel me? So don't think that they don't believe in nothing, or don't think that they don't know that the God of heaven is real. They know that the Most High God is real. That's not even a question for them. The question is are you going to fall for Rick's tricks? Right. People are like, what are the tricks? The tricks are getting people to get caught up in all the political stuff. Rick wants y'all to get involved in that, but I'm telling y'all not to. Because when you speak on certain things, and I'm talking about going out there and waving signs around and doing things that you don't have to do. Okay, that you didn't wake up with the cognitive desire to achieve. But something that was thrust upon you. Okay, brothers and sisters, you do not owe it to anyone. Once again, to do anything that doesn't make sense. You don't owe anybody nothing. Your parents said that they gave you life, but somebody gave them life. So who are they? Who are they to brag about giving you life when they didn't give themselves life? It's a backwards notion. Backwards notion. So what I'm saying is that you don't have to, just because they got some stuff up and it's talking about, uh, Russian interference or what Russia's doing, you don't even have to talk about stuff like that. You don't have to even entertain it. Word? But that also means not going out of your way to do business with people that aren't black people. Right. Because you don't know what kind of shit they're into. Oh man, I'm doing business with the Russians and the Asians. Everybody I know want to do business with the Asians because they think the Asians got so much money. But the Asians be the one who be having drug dealer operations and shit going on and human smuggling shit going on while you trying to actually just cook hot dogs. So it's supposed to be a sausage, gyro, and a burger shop, right? With pizza on the weekends. And this nigga smuggling people. Got you caught up in the shit. Fuck that. But black people don't understand. They're doing what they have to do to get it all the way popped off because they understand that 560, 550, 540, 500, 400, 300, 200, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 till it's over. They're counting too. So they're putting themselves in position. So Rick and friends are just getting positioned. They're jockeying for the right spot. Like who's going to be in the best spot when it happens. Mm-hmm. I won't get too carried away into like the genetic engineering. The next Rick, we're going to do another Rick in a couple days. Don't worry. I got some stuff coming about what these three nations have been doing together militarily in the region and what that means for the rest of the world and how it's probably going to World War III, whatever people think that is, the big one, there's going to be so many reasons it takes place. But one of the greatest reasons is going to be because of situations like Yemen, situations like Palestine, where you want to say, yeah, this group is supposed to be okay. So, for example, if you want to say that the Jewish dudes are the true children of the Bible, right? And that's what you want to say, then they didn't get the land back the way that God said that they would. And there's an issue with how they've taken the land from these people because these folks weren't bothering them. You see what I'm saying? And you could claim, once again, how they got the land is technically through terrorism. I'm serious. Or you could claim how they actually got that land is through all terrorism. And that's bullshit. Because right now, they're talking about fighting terrorism. But what did Israel do this last week other than commit acts of terror? And then claim that they have the right to defend themselves. You stole the land that you're on. Stole it. Think about this. Iran does not do business with Israel. China and Russia have limited dealings with Israel. Why do y'all think that is? Starting to make sense now, huh? Because remember, the Jews were doing all they had. The Jews were in control of their finances way back in these days. What if I'm telling y'all that I've been saying the long way, the long-winded way, that the Gentiles that are the Iranians, the Russians, and the Chinese, okay, found out that these other Gentiles who were calling themselves the Jews out the book were imposters and had the nerve to act like they were surprised that these guys weren't really the people. But this is hundreds of years later. So they already knew that they weren't the people. But at some point back then, once again, I'm telling y'all, unless they all already knew, then they're all in cahoots to the degree that they were in cahoots till they weren't. They all, somewhere they fell out. Right. The Russians are a Mongol, Turk, little bit of Caucasian mix. That's why the Russians be looking the way that they be looking. Right. That's why they be looking that way. Like, damn, what does this dude mix with? He's some kind of Turk and Mongol. Mm-hmm. It's hard for folks to believe this stuff because it means that they have to reevaluate what they thought about history. And I'm talking about history even right now, like, okay, now you're starting to see why the Russians, the Iranian, and the Chinese have been working together militarily for all these years. Now you're starting to see why when they make these video games about Russia and China and these guys all fighting each other, it would be well after the fact when they've already smashed down Babylon over here. Word? But why would you want to fight each other when you have a real enemy that has taken more from you than any one of you could take from each other right now combined? Have the last 400 years been easy on the Russians? No. Have the last 400 years been easy on the Chinese? No. Have the last 400 years been easy on the Iranians? No. But you know who had it sweet for at least almost 200 of those last, almost 200 years? 300 years? That's right. These cats over here in America. They didn't have organized slavery like that back then with black people, y'all. Where we were the slaves, they didn't have it like that. Do y'all understand? Right. So they never got to get that. And then when the slavery was happening, it was only certain places got certain slaves. Right. So when you think about the four corners of the earth, those places that got all of that certain tribe of the people of Judah, you have to start to realize that, oh, okay, that's what really happened. They sent out all these people to a certain place. All your people are still everywhere right now. Or they're among other groups of people who are nations and some who are not nations. They are Gentiles. But during those years, so if you just want to go back to America, let's say 1680, when cotton for sure was all the way took off, uh, cotton was a big reason why they wanted to get the railroads popping. Don't even know. Anyway, cats don't know. They were producing 75, 80% of the world's cotton. You know what I mean? After the Civil War. Before the Civil War, it was like, fuck, man, what? 90% of it? 95% of it? China produced a very small amount of it? That's a fact. That's a fact, man. I can't make this up. Bonus information. Why do y'all think that India had to confer with that Mahatma Gandhi of India conferred with George Washington Carver. Right. Can you dig it? Thank you. Because if they knew anything, they'd have done it already. These motherfuckers don't know nothing. So I'm trying to break it down to you. They don't know anything. They've shown you that they don't know anything. All that they believe in, that they worship, they were shown to believe and worship. But they don't believe in nothing. They believe in whatever they think they believe in. These dudes are vestiges of the devil. But shit, they're your best chance of getting up out of here without you having to do a whole lot of heavy lifting, because they want to do it all for you. Right. Because they thought that they could have lived on Earth for a long time without any of this. If they had never put us in slavery, they being the Jews and the Africans that sold us, and then the so-called Europeans who would eventually take on the brunt of that burden, they messed up what could have been them living on Earth for who knows how long. Because until the people would have been put in bondage, you would have had. So, right, if they had waited till this year that we're in right now, let's say everything was all farm-like, there was no YouTube, none of that stuff, right? And they put us into bondage right now today, they would have 400 years from this point today going forward. But they did that almost 400 years ago. These guys don't have very much religion, but they believe that it's getting close to the time. Rick and friends are starting to realize that they have to make their moves, because if they don't, they're going to get washed. Don't worry. Joe Biden said he's Irish, right? Meaning he's not American. Who is he chummy with but the Chinese? Okay. Okay. You're gonna learn. It's happening. I want the anti-Asian hate bill to get put in place. Come on, put it all in place. So that way when these groups put the boa constrictor on white folks, it's over. We all know it's going to be over then. Let's read a little bit more information before your boy rolls out. Once again, just so that way don't nobody think I'm tripping. Let's read this real quick. Okay. For more than a century, the rulers of the Golden Horde, or Kipchak Khanate, tried to occupy the Caucasus and advance into Iran. This led to an anti-Persian allegiance with Egypt. In the economic field, too, relations between the Golden Horde and Egypt developed remarkably, and a flourishing sea trade carrying goods between the two countries. Artisans and artists came from Egypt to the Khan's court at Sarai Batu at the Lower Volga, so that Egyptian influence could be found in the many works of art and architecture of the Golden Horde Empire. Now, you got to understand, this is the Silk Road, y'all. The religious ambitions differed very much from that in Iran. Although both Mongol empires were eventually converted to Islam, which favored amalgamation of Turks and Mongols, in Iran, Islam was the religion of the subjugated population. But at the same time, Nestorian and Buddhism were powerful rivals, Christians and Buddhists. In southern Russia, however, Nestorianism had never played a prominent role, and Buddhism was practically non-existent. The religious vacuum facilitated the adoption of Islam, and the native shamanism of Mongols was soon supplanted by the new creed. Shamanism is their religion. The Khans, on the other hand, observed tolerance toward the Orthodox Church of their Russian subjects. The patriarchs enjoyed a number of privileges not unlike those granted by the Khans in China. This non-interference in Russian religious life later proved a major political factor because the Orthodox Church assumed a national function under the foreign rulers, not unlike that of the Orthodox clergy in Greece and the Balkan countries under Turkish rule, when the Christian religion and nationalism were closely aligned. Now, I need y'all to understand that. It says the Orthodox clergy, right? Orthodox being people who believe in the first 5 books, typically. Word? That's a true Orthodox. But y'all hearing all this stuff, right? So Islam is so powerful. Now, I don't know if y'all remember when we were reading the stuff about Islam, and it was saying Muhammad said that that the Christians either misinterpreted or ignored what the book said. The disrespect. But he meant that. I think those crows in the background agreed. Nigga full of shit. Yep, he agreed. In spite of several local incidents, Genos, whoa. Go back. Whoa. There we go. The various Russian city-states and princedoms remained under Mongol rule. The Khans contented themselves with levying tribute that was collected by a specially appointed baskak, or officials. Now stop right there. Look up Uzbekistan, look up Kyrgyzstan, look up any of those places. They have Asian-looking dudes who were in charge. I'm not joking, I'm not lying. Word? You got cats who do not look like they are Russian or nothing like that who are in charge of some of these places. They look straight Asian or they look straight like a Native American white dude in the face. It's crazy. Looking like Elon Musk, but different. An important consequence of Mongol rule was the gradual transfer of Russian national life from Kiev to Moscow. There were contacts with Western Europe, but they were mostly of an economic nature. The Republic of Genoa had as early as 1260 as 1267 established a trade post at Kaffa, Feodosia, in Crimea. In spite of several, this is why they're trying to get into Crimea right now, because this shit is historical. In spite of several incidents, Genoese merchants continued their activities for a long time in the Golden Horde Empire. Relations with the Byzantium were mostly friendly. And Mongol rulers even occasionally sent armies to assist the emperors of Constantinople in their wars against Bulgaria. Listen, why do you think they never bowed down in the whole Eastern Europe, the whole Euro-Asia? Why do you think it's always been wild over there? Because of this shit. Man, it's just too wild, y'all. Y'all need to really put it in your minds that these same dudes, okay, had families, not all of them, the Khans at least, though. It has been traced that some of them were here in the Americas. Man, the Mongols themselves were deeply affected by their surroundings. The majority of their subjects in the steppe regions of the southern Russia were Turkish, Kumans, Kipchaks, etc. And this strong Turkish element led comparatively soon to the disappearance of distinctive Mongol features. The Mongol language was given up in favor of Turkish, and continuous intermarriage resulted in finally the formation of the new Islamic population, the Tartars of Russia. Stop right there. Did you hear that? They mixed themselves all the way in, so you couldn't tell who was who. I'm not lying about none of this stuff. There's a reason why they wanted to do this, man. There's a reason why. I'm not saying this right here. Well, this obviously, the reason why they wanted to do that is so that way nobody could tell who they were. And so it's just like when I say the three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth were triplets, and they're identical, and that their children were identical, and nobody could tell them apart. It's for that effect. So that way you don't know who's who, unless you actually know. Right. Man, it's so deep. Man, it's deep. Now, when they say Turkish, they're talking more white skin looking. But where do all those dudes come from? Once again, they're splinter cell branches of the Franks and stuff like that. And or Ostrogoths, Visigoths, Burgundians, Jutes, Slavic, blah, 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 blah. Right? Anglos, all that stuff, right? See what I'm saying? So, man, I might sound like I'm just rambling right now, but to me, all of this makes sense. It is so vicious that these cats are nothing more than converts. And they're converts who, I don't know if they've pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, because I'm not confused. But for the most part, they got everybody else shook, man. They got everybody shook, man. But I'm seeing it. They're coming back to get vengeance. They're coming back to get theirs. All those years where they had to fight with swords and shields and stuff like that, man, that stuff didn't stop for a long time. And that stuff didn't stop really until rifles came out. Okay, and then even when rifles was here, people still had swords and other weapons like it, and people still bring swords into combat until this day. Right. So I don't see how. I just don't see how people don't see the what happened was they all became Muslims, a lot of them. The Muslims lost the crusade in a lot of ways, but the Turkish Empire was able to spread its empire, it was able to spread itself all over there, right? So they're like, even though we lost the so-called crusades, whatever, we're taking all this. And we're going to get some of our cousins, the so-called Jews, they're going to jump off slavery with the real Jews. Right. And we're going to get it popping all the way because these big black giant dudes done said, if you don't, we'll break your face. It's crazy. Yeah, they're going to leave the big black giant part out of there because they don't want to get their faces. You can't even publish that. If obviously I don't care. And ain't nobody going to hear it that's going to do anything about it. So, I'm not going to get in any trouble. But if you let one of these officials come out and say that dudes that are fucking 2 and 3 feet tall in Shaq, okay, are running the show over there in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and Iran, right, and all those other places, where Turkey and all that stuff as well, who do you think put those cats up to it? Huh? Who do you think put them up to it, y'all? They didn't put themselves up to it. Why wait till after the Crusades? Why not have put us in slavery before? There's a lot of great questions that I'm asking. That when you think about it, they make sense and they warrant to be. They need to be asked, and they warrant asking. I'm serious, brothers and sisters. Why would they wait? Why did they wait? Once again, why not at the height of their power put us in slavery? That was never their intent. The ones that took over, once again, that they ended up breeding up breeding with, and they were thinking that they were gonna, keep their rule. The Turk language took over. The Turk beliefs took over, replaced the shamanism. Right? They bred themselves out on accident, thinking that they were going to take over. The Chinese see that, and then they realize this is why the Chinese don't let don't let the Muslims into their. That's why they hate the Muslims now. Right? Muslims have been in their country for forever. They're not going to admit that to y'all. The Uyghurs have been there for as long as those look. As long as the Mongols who are in charge now have been there, the Uyghurs have been there just as long, if not longer. It's true. It's a fact. But they hate them just like the Russians hate Muslims. Right. Because they were like, if we were on the other side of the crusade, we could have fought, and maybe there is no slavery. Right. Maybe the 400-year prophecy never happens and we never have to get judgment from God. That's what they would think. I mean, hypothetically, right? Theoretically, even though it didn't happen, so it could never happen now. But theoretically, that could have taken place. They'd have never put us into bondage. We'd have never been sent here. The 400 years would have never started. Everybody would be living their lives, but they didn't understand that. The people who put us into the bondage didn't get that when you started, you can't stop the 400-year cycle. You know how much money slavery made people? It's Gentile. You know how much money these Gentiles made and people made off of the backs of black folk? Think about that for a moment. How many of these nations, think about this, even though they benefit now off the hard work of slavery, how many of them benefited directly from slavery and were made rich from slavery? China wasn't made rich from slavery. Russia wasn't made rich from slavery. Iran wasn't made rich from slavery. America was made rich from slavery. France was made rich from slavery. Germany was made rich from slavery. England was made rich from slavery. You feel what I'm saying? Word? Right on? The UK, all that type of stuff. Australia, even. Because they put those Aboriginals over there to work. And they imported some nigga flesh over there. Don't get it fucked up. Right. But Rick did not get rich. Rick, listen to me. Rick didn't get rich off of slavery. That's on everything. Rick didn't get his money off of slavery. Rick got his money elsewhere. No, Rick has notoriety for being in the shadowy, seedy underworld. From the Russian mob to the triads of the Chinese to the so-called wanting to build of a nuclear device in Iran. Come on. Think about that. Think about that. Rick didn't make money off of slavery, though. Like I said, they didn't get theirs off of slavery. All the countries that got theirs off of slavery, most of them have a problem with Rick. 90% of them. Why that is because Rick did not want to go through what they all went through with. It's easy for folks to think that it's easy to talk about this stuff. It's not easy to talk about this stuff. Those three countries, literally, are the only three places I can think of right now that even if they don't stand up for black people directly, when they stand up to the U.S., they indirectly stand up for black people, no matter what. I see no Russian hostilities, Iranian hostilities, or Chinese hostilities. I can't acknowledge those because their hostilities are not actually towards my persons, and they're towards an ideology and a way of life that has destroyed everything that they have in their countries. Right. People forget about the millions that the Russians lost during World War II to fight for the Jews to go and then oppress the Palestinians. Because that makes sense, huh? People forget the fact that the Japanese went and oppressed the Chinese during World War II. They're like, where was Iran at? Chilling. Not trying to get caught up in all that shit. Bracing for impact. Right. I'm sure there was people from that country who got involved in the conflicts, but you get what I'm saying. That wasn't their fight. This is my point. They have not done anything to anybody that actually, when you look at it, they haven't done anything to you directly or me, or should I say, when we look at what all the other groups of Gentiles have done, their level of hate and vitriol towards us has not been nowhere close to the ones that we actually know who truly hate us. Nowhere close. Hasn't even been nothing like it. And it's unfortunate that once again that, that Rick has to take the blame for everything. Every time somebody gets blamed for something in the world, they're blaming Rick. We all know that. And their friends don't get it any easier. Every time they get to talk smack about the cartel in Mexico or just South and Central America, what they call those places, from Honduras all the way down to Peru, you know what I'm saying? What they call those places, it's unfortunate that they know what I'm saying to be true. Right on? There's groups that have been adverse and detrimental to who we are, and Rick is not one of them. Has Rick been a savior? No, but nobody's been a savior. So how can we be mad at Rick for not doing what no one else did? I need people to understand this. It's not Rick's job to save us or friends. It's not their job to save us because they didn't put us here. Rick did not. When I say Rick didn't start slavery, come on, hear me. Rick did not start slavery. They didn't jump that off. Right. There's a reason why they want us to fail. Not Rick, but those that hate Rick. Those that have their thumb on our neck right now. If not a whole full-blown foot with all of his weight. Or a knee. Trying to kill us out of existence. Like I said, people want to get mad at Rick for what? What did Rick do to you? Rick has been fighting over religious rights since Rick has known any kind of good sense. That's been Rick's struggle. Rick's struggle has not been oppressing black people. I don't know what else to say about that. Our next time we talk about Rick, y'all, as we close out, we are going to get into a heated argument about Rick, about whether or not Rick is even in the Bible as the group that the white man should be worried about, or if Rick is just going to be a force that the nations use, to catapult their attack. I wanted to talk about Rick exclusively and not talk about all that and burden y'all with too much thought, just to burden you with just Rick alone and just what they gone through. Now that we have gotten Russia, Iran, and China covered, as far as the relationship, as far as, the way that I'm trying to present it to you, I'm not trying to present to you what these historians present to you because I'm a history revisionist, okay? I can look at history and tell you what I see based on what I see right now. Like, some of that can't be true. That can't be right. But based on what they're saying, we've all seen Russians who look Asian. Have we not? Hell, we've even seen Russians that look kind of black. Once again, we'll break into that stuff this next time around. If the nations are black people, I'm going to leave y'all on this note. If the known nations are indeed black people, and they're going to descend on Babylon, every nation. Did it say every person from every nation? No, it just said every nation. Would it be believable that Rick is a stopgap between the nations and everything else? Meaning that some of the folks who actually come from Rick are truly from the nations. But Rick himself is not actually of the nations. It's deep. It's deep. Stay tuned, y'all. I'm telling you, stay with me. We're gonna keep it with Rick. But we're gonna get to the prophecy of Babylon coming down, and we're gonna start to understand why Rick and friends, come on, Afro-Latino people who may very well be of people from other nations, who are the children of Adam, come on, who are going to submerge this motherfucker. That's right. And all those Afro Arabs who live in the northern region called Canada, who are going to come down and descend on this bitch too. See, I'm going to talk about it, okay? I'm going to talk about it. Because it's not just the black people that you know who were here. It's the cats that you're not even thinking about that are going to come, that are close. It's going to be like a race to the finish. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be, oh my goodness. The great day of punishment is going to be so crazy. There's going to be so many people who just get laid out. There'll be blood everywhere. A lot of little crying babies. A lot of people looking lost and confused. And big, angry freaks of nature who I'm kind of thanking God that people don't believe me right now, because it's going to be better when they get surprised. You know what I mean? There's nothing like you waking up to a 10-foot tall behemoth running around in your front yard with a sword that's sharp enough to cut through a whole car. Nothing like that. So one of these days, we'll get to don't worry, soon we're going to be talking about the Jeremiah stuff. We'll get to right, like I said, we'll get to, like I told y'all not too long ago, we would get back to Jeremiah. Had to figure out a way to get Rick tied together and get it all worked together. So now that we got Rick in there, I can bring Rick into the scripture just a little bit and show y'all where I believe some of these groups, or at least the idea where people that could be associated and affiliated with these groups, what is it? Is it the tribe of Joseph? I want to say that Luz, right? Luz, I want to say is the guy's name, right? He was allowed to escape, and he went and created the city of Luz. It's in Russia right now to this day. Black dude created that place. There's black people that live in Russia that been there for who knows how long. Russians ain't gonna tell you that. But once again, though, I'm not even trying to break all that. I'm not even trying to get carried away with all that. Or what I want to get carried away with is just y'all understanding that Rick has more than one tentacle, and we need to identify that we've identified most of the tentacles. Now we're going to get into some scripture stuff next time, and I'm going to break down to you why Rick was religious, why Rick got religious, when they didn't start like that. They started out as shamans and whatever. I'm going to explain to you why Rick got religious. And it was out of pure competition with the Franks. Had nothing to do with them actually. At first, they didn't believe, and then they started to. Let's say it like that. It's deep. At first, they did not believe, and then they started to. Brothers and sisters, this has been a very, very fun pleasure. I've had a great time. Please read this. Please read this thing on the Britannica about the Mongol Empire. Please don't cheat yourself. it would benefit you to read it, so that way when I talk about some of these things going forward, once again, they're not a confusion, or there's no lapse in judgment. Like, you don't think I'm not trying to pull no fast one. I'm not. I promise to God, I'm not trying to pull a fast one. It's very difficult to relay all the information all at once and just expect everybody to get it and expect everybody to believe what I'm trying to convey, which is Rick is a part of the solution, because they were never a part of the actual initial problem, which is the people turning to idolatry and worshiping things that had nothing to do with it. Come on, come on. What we did to our God, it's not on Rick. Okay? So Rick can be part of the solution, because Rick is not the problem. Thank you. Brothers and sisters, I appreciate all your time. I really do. I salute you. It's always an honor to have you to listen to what I'm saying. I try not to get too carried away with this. I try to really not get too reading a bunch of information that I've already read before and doing all that. I just wanted to just freestyle, talk to you, and level with you, and hope that you could see that where I was coming from is a point of view of, we have so much more to win than we do to lose. You get me? Uh, you could lose your salvation, but winning your salvation is a way more than losing it. So, you know, I just don't want brothers and sisters to feel like there's nothing in it for them. And this next Rick is going to be explaining that when all the nations converge and do this, and this, I'm pretty much going to give y'all like the what I think you should do during the great day, which is to stand down, step aside, get out the way, collect the loot, whoop ass and take names. Come on. As needed for the last part. Because everything else you have to do before you can whoop ass and take names. But just stay out the way. Stand down and stay out the way. Because they're going to do the heavy lifting. They got the guns, they got the ammo, they got all that stuff. So we don't have to do nothing. What's popping, bro? What's popping? I'm about to sign out here in a second. I've been going on and on now for the last couple hours about Russia, Iran, and China, family. And next time I talk about Rick, I want to talk about how the prophecy is going to tie in with everything. I've been okay, bro. I just been going through my own trials and tribulations. I had a funny situation happen at work, right? I got fired, you know what I'm saying? And hating ass dude fired me because I don't know what he was thinking of. He just came and got in my work area, and we had a couple words, and it wasn't even like I said anything rude to him. I was just like, hey man, either let me do my job, bro, or you do the job. And he was like, we both can work right here. And I was like, no, because there's only one of these. And then as I'm putting some stuff away, I'm like, you should do the second part and I should do this part. And he's like, no, this is my this is my fucking business. This is my fucking, I was like, oh my God. He's like, you know what? Fuck you, go home. I was like, okay, dude. He's like, you're fucking fired. I was like, okay, dude. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? I said some shit to him as I was leaving. I'm not gonna repeat here, but you know what I'm saying? Some choice. Once again, I had some choice words for him. No, I will repeat. Guido ass wop. Okay, that's what I called him. That's what I called his bitch ass. Yeah. Anyhow, I've been fine though, bro. I'm looking for work again. As always, a nig in a strange land, getting treated even stranger. So all I can do, bro, is just roll with the punches, and just let it be. Man, bro, my email is always I'm saying you can always get my email and hit me up through my email. A second. I'll put that in there for you, young D-Mac. Yeah, bro. But yeah, I'm about to roll out here in a second, man, because I just been talking about how the Russians and the Iranians and the Chinese are not they're not exactly who you think they are. Right on. They're not they're not Muslims. They're not Christians. They're not Buddhist. Word. They're actually shamans who are moonlighting as believers. But these same shamans have enough sense to see. Right on. Right on. It's all good. I'm just leave it up there. Uh, but these shamans have enough sense to see that the Most High God is real. And I believe that they seen that at some point during the captivity of Black people, they come to realize that the prophecies are real. And now they're afraid. And they're trying to be on the right side of the battle. You get what I'm saying? They don't want to be on the wrong side of the battle. They're already on the wrong side, you know, of the battle. Which interview, bro? Which interview? You'd have to be specific. But I was just saying how, you know, they were on the wrong side of history because they fought in the crusade, and pretty much all those groups that I mentioned were pretty much fighting. Well, the Buddhists didn't fight really. They probably fought a little bit, but the Iranians and the Russians were forced to be Muslims for a long time, and they got smacked in the crusade. Or not all the time, but a lot of the time they got smacked. And then after a while, the Russians just said, you know what, forget that. You know, we're going to become Orthodox Christians because number one, you guys didn't win the crusade, and number two, the Bible is full of far less confusion. You know. Oh, bro, I know it, bro. Listen, family, listen, dog. I I've been saying stuff like that. I've been saying stuff like that. I've been saying stuff like that. I already know, bro. When it happens, it's going down. Look, man, don't trip, bro. You feel me? Don't make them act right now. They might read the comment section and want to act right. You don't know who's watching these videos. You don't know who pulls up this shit in the briefings. Word? Just because, once again, there's only a few of us doesn't mean that we're not right. Yep. Bro, man, listen, fam. I'm not surprised that it's a dude from Iran saying, I didn't know that. I'm just going off the cuff, off rip what I be saying, because how I view history, what I understand about the so-called people that are being represented, you know, by these identities. And I just have enough good sense to know that they know that God's people are in this land, and that every day they sit by and they allow, that's blood on it's blood on everybody's hands. It's blood on my hands, it's blood on your hands when we don't do everything we can do, right? It's blood on all of our hands, brother. But what I'm saying is that they feel responsible because they knew that we were the children. Okay? But none would what? None would rescue us. Nobody purchased us, brother. Nobody restored us, brother. You know, I I'm I'm just speaking to it, brother, because it's a thing, man. It's a thing, man, that they don't get, bro. You feel me? You know, and they can get mad about it. Like I told them, I'm not. Look, I don't have to raise a fist to this country. They done dropped enough bombs indiscriminately. There are more than enough angry non-Americans all over Earth who want a piece of this ass. So this American tushy, okay, they want some of that, and I'm standing aside when they come to take it. I'm not protecting that. They can have that ass, straight up, because that's what they asked for. That's what they asked for. Right on. They've been running around here violating folks. When it's America's turn to get violated, they're gonna get violated in the worst way. They know it. They already know. So this is why they go extra hard, but they don't realize if they just came to the table if they just came to the table and sat down and said, you know what, we want to make it right. How do we make it right? They'll tell you, you have to shed blood. You have to give up blood. It's blood for blood. You can't just let your seed cannot continue to live and my seed is dead because you chose to be irrational, and you chose to be uh hasty, right on. Chose to be overzealous in your actions. And so now you want me to forgive the blood, but blood is only reparable by blood. You know what I'm saying? The only way you can repay me and repair me for blood is to give me blood. So, yeah, brother, I'm glad you hit me up like this. I'm glad you said everything that you're saying because, I was, like I said, I was on my way out. Breathed a little new life into me for half a second, so I'll stay with it for just, for just another moment with you just to explain, bro, like, if you go to that link up top, there's a link at the very top of this page, bro. You got to go to it. You got to read it, family. Bookmark the link. When you go to the link, bookmark the page, man. There is some deep information there. But the stuff that I was just reading off on, I just need you to hear this right here, man. Okay. One moment. Where are we at? Here we go. Let's read about Uzbek. Under Uzbek, the political power of the empire reached its peak, and Islamic culture flourished under the energetic ruler, whose name survives to this day, and that of Uzbekistan. He was also granted to Ivan I of Moscow the title of Grand Duke for his services as collector of the tribute for the Tartars. A measure was strengthened the predominance of Moscow in Russia. Later, the rulers of the horde were confronted with a new problem on the frontiers when the Ottoman Turks reached the Dardanelles in 1354. This not only weakened their maritime ties with Egypt, but also cut the Khanate off from the Mediterranean and therefore from southern Europe. Let me just go ahead and put it to you like this right here. The same cats that they were seeded from, because they're from the Ottoman Turks, that's who they are. The Tartars are look, if you're Turkish, you have to be some form of Ottoman. Okay? This is what it is. The Ottomans, in this case, or the Tartars, who are a lesser group, who are a mix between them and the Mongol groups, they're saying that they cut them off from Southern Europe. They stopped them from being able to go down there and doing business. Now, if people look at what was going on, why would they do this? Because the Ottoman Empire was doing what? Was setting up its whole ranks everywhere. These guys were lesser Ottomans, right on? So they weren't going to pretty much rock the boat with those that had made them who they were. This is why when it said that the Mongols bred themselves in or whatever, no, they got bred out because the Ottoman Empire was that big. This is why the Chinese stopped breeding with them in the first place. Word? You take what I'm saying? That's why they were like, nah, enough of that. Now the question is this though, is if you got one group that looks one way, another group that looks another way, another group that looks another way, another group that looks another way, where did they all come from? That's the question. Because you ain't never seen a nigga turn white person turn black, or a nigga turn from a nigga to a Mexican, or it don't happen. There has to be some kind of blood mixing for that type of stuff to take place. But where did all these cats come from in the first place to even blood mix with one another? See, these are questions that I didn't ask today because I didn't want to get too drawn into a dark realm that that I try to stay away from when I'm talking about pure thoroughbred history, which is Middle Earth, because people don't believe that these things that these guys came came out the middle of the planet. They don't want to believe that. It's just, once again, they want to believe that a person can transfer their consciousness into a robot, but don't think that motherfuckers crawled out the middle of the planet. That's the level of shit I have to contend with. So, that's why I'd be like, yeah, whatever to cats. But truth be told, Rick, Russia, Iran, China, and friends, all to some degree, have in them a genome that is highly suspicious, to say the least. And that genomic attribute, I do believe, is what allowed for them to overlook the suffering of Black people for so long. But now that it's all come full circle, I don't think that they have the ability any longer to actually talk about it. Of course, brother, but that's the thing though, is that's oral history. So it's not science. So nobody has to respect that. Right? You feel me? That's the problem. I respect oral history, but it doesn't mean that another person is going to honor what I honor just because I honored it. So I have to have the sense to say, okay, they don't believe what I believe. You know? Now, you knowing that they come from the middle of the planet doesn't mean that you can just, dismiss everything that they say. Right on? Because they've learned a lot from you and me. They've learned a lot from us. You know what I'm saying? They've learned a lot from Black people, though. You know what I'm saying? They've learned a lot. Oh, well, for sure, brother. I mean, but the thing is, Neanderthals aren't just blonde hair and blue eyes. You know what I'm saying? They have straight hair with dark skin, right? You feel me? You know what I mean? Sometimes they have a looser, curlier hair than this with darker skin. Sometimes a little bit lighter than us. So we have to realize that the term Neanderthal or savage or Gentile is to be used interchangeably with all that are not true Afro-Negro people that are the children of Adam. We already know that. But we can't assume that everybody, once again, believes that we come from an ultimate progenitor. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of folks who will not believe that. They'll actually contend that we don't. So, we have to. Right. But but you have to realize though, bro, that there's a lot to it though. Whether it's Hittites, whether it's Hivites, right? All those people were at one point Black Afro people who look like niggas, But you got to realize Esau mixed with giant Black people, not little pygmy Black people. Word? So when I say what I'm saying, right, that these are gigantic Black people that are still in the Middle East, it's all that stuff goes together, you know. But what can we, once again, we have to focus on who's gonna actually help us. Rick and friends are gonna inadvertently or advertently help us because they want to. Word? They're gonna actually be helpful towards us. All we have to do is get out of our own way. But if we stay in the way, all the protesting, forget all the duplicitous nature. Black people have to fall back, get out the way, and then allow for your passive allies, because they say we don't have any, but really we do. Because they're willing to fight a battle that we can't fight toe-to-toe, because they have resources that we don't have, access to things that we just won't have access to. So, come on, bro. Separate yourselves. But that's what black people, enemy of my enemy. Come on. Sometimes it's my enemy, but in this case, it's going to be your friend. This case is going to be my friend because what they want to do is going to help us get away from what it is that we're already surrounded in, you know. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but but the Chinese, the Iranians, the Russians, they have done no more damage. I want you to think about this. All the dope that's been from cocaine to heroin to fentanyl to marijuana to methamphetamine, right? To Molly, to whatever that people get their hands on, right? The thing is this. They can say, oh, no, oh, okay. It still take a sucker butt sellout to sell that to their own people. So the level of evil that they operate with, because they sell that same poison that they will bring in by the boatloads to the hood, they flood that shit in their own streets. Once again, like I said, they control where it's at, so everybody's not a nation of fiends. They control that, but they still do that. You know what I'm saying? So black people have to recognize, like, yo, what they've done is no different. Now, can the Chinese tell you, hey, man, all y'all should stop selling to each other and just go sell only to white people? No, they can't tell you all that because you have to have the heart and the backbone to do that. But then you got to take the chance to do that. You're talking about taking real penitentiary chances now. Doing something that you ain't got no business doing. So what do? You sell it to somebody who ain't gonna tell on you, or you think ain't gonna tell on you. This is how people end up selling to their own folks in the first place. Outside of the fact that there's for sure turncoats and sellouts and opportunists in the midst, right? Can't wait to put a knife in your back. There's folks who have literally made decisions that don't warrant death, but they warrant admonishment. And a part of their admonishment, this society may say, you know what? We don't want to give you a job here. And we'll make it to where you can't get a job anywhere. Right. You can't even shovel shit. So what are you to do? Are you supposed to just starve to death and die? No. So now you choose to do something. Like I said a couple of days ago about the Tulsa stuff. They created criminals that were people who would have never been sinners. They made them into sinners. Exactly, bro. Exile, right? But that's what I'm saying though, is why do black people have to have it both ways? Why can't it be like, you know what? Okay, I've been a victim, but I've also victimized my own self, or I've victimized someone else. Right on? To whatever degree of severity, that's what you know. That's what I know. But we have to be honest with ourselves. And like I said, Rick is not here to make right our wrongs. Rick is here to go toe-to-toe with a genetic group that they're fit to go toe-to-toe with. Brother, that word means so much when you say it, and when you say accountability, is it just for being lustful in your heart? Is it for shedding blood? Right on. Is it for poisoning your people? Is it for being a drunk? You dig what I'm saying? Is it because they sleep with is it because she's a woman who lays with a woman, or is it because he's a man that lays with a man? Like, what is the accountability for? Because right now is the only time that they have to get right. Right now is our one time to get right. And I don't know, bro. I just think that there's a lot that goes to that. You feel me? You know what I'm saying, family? And it's not that you're absolutely right. You know what I'm saying? To one another and to self. I agree. You're absolutely right. But I'm just saying that when we say accountability, we have to be specific. Like it's just like when I'm saying what I'm saying about Rick, right? When you repent, or when I repent, we have to say what I have to say. God, this is what I done. This was the action I took. This was what resulted from it. I know it's a sin, right? So this is what I want to be forgiven for. Can I be forgiven? Will you show me in your scripture if this is forgivable or not? And if he shows you that it's not forgivable, I'm not telling people to go take their own life or to do nothing like that. It's just for them to recognize that there would have been a time where you may have lost your life. So the fact that you can repent means that you should repent because there's a chance that he may have mercy. Come on. So what I'm saying is that as long as Rick gets here, it is much better late than never. Right on? It is much better late than never. But the big black giants have waned over the last, 400 years. There's not nearly as many of them. So uh, they don't have to get, they're, once again, the threat of 20 of these things showing up to your little village and literally killing 200 of you, 300 of you in the middle of the night, that's no longer a problem. Folks don't want to hear stuff like that. Like, they're like, Meech, didn't nobody do stuff like that? What are you guys talking about? Like, what kind of damage do you think a sword could do to somebody? Like, I don't know what people think a sword can do, but we're talking about, once again, this thing is 10 feet tall. The sword probably weighs 12 pounds, 13 pounds on this, his sword probably weighs 13 pounds compared to a, 2 or 3 pound sword. Or stop it. These things are killing multiple people in one stroke type stuff. It's demonic, it's evil, it's crazy. It's what they consider, that superhuman strength and all that stuff, right? It's because they weren't the typical 30-foot tall giants that scared everybody. You know what I'm saying? But big black giants that were murking people. This is what took so long to take over all these places. Exactly. No, bro. Exactly. I was just going to get to that. Right as you said what Washington said. Yeah. This is what I'm saying though. They can't tell you or me that these were not the same forces that helped these guys take over the lands that they were in. Once again, why not enslave the people? If the Ottoman Empire was that strong and they could do that much, why didn't they enslave us back then? Why didn't they cash in on it back then? Why would you wait? Unless you spent all the money fighting wars, the land could no longer produce food, and you had no other choice, or you never had any intent on doing that at all, ever. And those who did it were forced to do it. Because you have to know about in order to enact it, you have to do it on purpose. It's just like circumcision. You don't get accidentally circumcised. That doesn't, I've never heard about it in the Bible. Okay. I could only imagine if somebody did something wrong to that part of their body. So you feel it's a very deliberate thing. You have to know what you're doing to do it. Having said that, they would have to know that we were the children of Israel. Somebody would have had to know to be able to go out to Africa and say, no, 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 not those darkies, those darkies. Follow what I'm saying? Yeah, get the one with the 5 o'clock shadow and the nigga with the beard. Yeah, we'll take the dude with the little underbeard too. He can come too. Yeah, it's all right. Right on. But yeah, these are the kind of people you're looking for. Right. Don't think that they didn't do that. That's what they done. They knew who they were looking for. But why would they come out of nowhere and once again start something that they know that it ends with the people calling on the God of honor? When I say that's wild and it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make any sense. Like, so the only logical explanation is that they were not able to stop what was, I think that's what part of what the Crusades was about. And had the Muslims come out on top of the Crusades, I don't think our people would have ever ended up being slaves in that manner and capacity. At least not as soon. I don't see it happening like that. Right. They would have purposely let us stay in Africa and purposely only funneled certain slaves up out of there because they understood that. They understood that if you bring all these dudes out of here, if you enslave them all, if you started off a circle, it's over. But they knew, especially if you brought them to a land off from their land, from where they were originally from, you were fucked. So to bring you from Africa back closer to where you're from, you can't start any prophecy like that. That doesn't start the prophecy like that. But what does start the prophecy is when you put them on a boat and you send that boat way across the water to another land. And you continuously do this. And you do it so much so with the intent of enslaving these people. Where now it's obvious. The heavens have seen it, the stars, the sun, the moon, the Most High God Himself has seen it. They know it. They all know that these things have been recorded by the heavens. It's not a mistake. Like I said, it's a deliberate thing. Life is deliberate. They tell you that, oh, all this happened in a random chance, but your house, the apartment that I live in right now, that's not a random chance. Somebody built this with hands and skills, understanding and know-how built this. Okay, so they're not going to get me to believe that they were able to enslave the perfect right group of black people to build a nation that the world has not seen in a very long time. The likes of that has not been seen in a very long time. Right. They say it's the most richest, most powerful nation, but I wasn't around during Egypt or Greece or none of that, so I can't say that. That's what they all seem to have said during the time that they were the richest and most powerful nation. Is that we're the richest and most powerful ever. How pretentious. So I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go out of my way to say that. You know, I used to believe that America was the most powerful nation ever, but now that I clearly have seen some form of the light, I just know that not to be true. Uh, Babylon is a nation of witchcraft and sorcery. That doesn't make her mighty. That makes her wicked. Um, the cons, brothers and sisters. I'm gonna pull up a little thing real quick. Cons and America. Oh man. See, they be trying to do way too much. See, I be trying to put in. I was trying to put in cons in America. I don't have to just spell it out. America. There we go. No, 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 no. See, and they want people to believe that these dudes who are calling themselves con now are no. Okay, what are we gonna do? What's the name of these guys, y'all? What's the other name of them? I'll have to find the little thing that I had before. It's not coming up right now. I'm not gonna worry about it. For some odd reason, it is. It's like they're trying to act funny with the Google search, but it's like the actual cons, right on. You know what I mean? And they won't that, but because they'll try to tell you that some of these dudes crossed over to Bering Strait, and that some of their DNA has been matched to the dudes who are over there, right on. I have an article that says that they believe that the Native Americans were in Egypt. No, the Khans and the Native Americans are the same blood type motherfuckers. Were those same Aztecans that are down there in Mexico, who were in these cartels, who were in Guatemala, Honduras, Ecuador, right, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, so on and so forth, all the way down, right? Like I said, all the way down to Peru, right? All those cats who were straight up for real from the bloodline of the Khans, those are the friends of those dudes that we've been talking about. And yes, Some of them were large in stature as well, but not nearly as many as the big black giants that obviously have been in charge of everything for a very long time. As brother said, as brother D-Mac said, Esau breeding with the Amorites and the Hittites and all those things in the mountains that were of larger stature. But don't nobody believe that they're running the show right now and that they're just as violent as they were 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, that they're just as violent today as they were back then. It's crazy. Anyway, y'all, I'm about to get ready to head out, okay? I'm about to go. So I appreciate y'all. I love you. Salute. And we'll get to talking about Rick again later. Peace.